this is the most recent work, begun during the pandemic. My projects have always been sort of research-based, and during the pandemic we weren't allowed to travel. I couldn't go to any collections to go do work. All the things I thought of as being my practice went away. And I still had to teach. I was teaching in Zoom, but all of the students at that point had their screens off. So like it's all black screens. And so I'm sitting there talking to myself all day long, and I'm like, what is going on? So I thought, you know what? I'm an artist. I teach photography. I have a camera. I have a backdrop. I have a tripod. I can make art. So that's sort of how it started. I thought, let me just start with portraits. It was a chance to reconnect with some people I hadn't seen at all, right, during those first months of the pandemic. I started in, I think, July or August of that first summer, and so there was no vaccine yet. And at that time, they told us to keep a window open and to stay 16 feet away. So I set up my studio. I had the windows open. I kept a mask on the whole time. And then the people came over one at a time. I would photograph them, and then they would do mask and no mask. So I have everybody with a mask and without a mask. Altogether, so far, I have about 65 people. Wow. So that would be about 130 images, which would be great to show someday. This is just a little snapshot of that project with a range of different portraits that I took. They all had the same setup because I was trying to keep it consistent. So the black backdrop and the chair that I bought online for $49. And those were the things that people came in and they had to respond to. I only included a couple with masks, just so you got a sense of it. I guess ideally I would have them, we need to see them side by side. Most of the ones selected here had some connection to Scripps or to Claremont. Jen Fay teaches at Scripps College, so as one of my colleagues, was one of the last portraits that I did. Mary Kelly, you might know, is a well-known artist, and she was my teacher when I was at the Whitney program, so I tortured her for a portrait. Amelia Jones, a curator at USC and scholar, and we're working on a project together. Zachary Drucker's taught at Scripps College, and you saw his photos in the other exhibition with Reince Ernst. William Mago went to CGU and was my TA. Susan Silton's an LA-based artist, and she has lectured for my classes out here. Hung taught at Scripps College as a sabbatical replacement for somebody, so she was out here a couple times. And Kevin teaches dance at Scripps, and Jill worked at Pomona College. So the portraits were not about Claremont when I was doing them, but because I've taught in Claremont for so long, I do have a few connections. So, we'd like a focus on Claremont if possible. I'm like, no problem. Could have actually done more. So that's just sort of a background. The other part of it was that there was a certain amount of risk in the beginning. There's no vaccine yet, so anybody could have died or killed me. And we were doing what was safe as what people understood to be safe, but it wasn't totally safe. So different individuals had different comfort levels. And I think a bit of it for me was that aspect of both community and of spending time with each other was part of the idea. So that we were willing to, if this was the new reality forever, that there's a certain amount of risk that I was willing to take on if they were willing to join me in that. And so the conversations at the beginning were very intense because everybody had been really isolated. And so they were, we would talk, and then usually we go outside and have a glass of wine or coffee or something at the end. And so they were really about community. Some of the people I didn't know very well before, and so it was a chance to get to meet them, like some of my Scripps colleagues that we'd never spent 2 hours together before. And so it was I think for me, the pandemic was an opportunity to think about what we've lost, what we want to keep, I guess making decisions about what my life would be if I was going to survive it. And so I think remembering people and creating images of them was something I felt was worth doing. This room was sort of the beginning of the exhibition for me. When Seth asked me, they had an interest in doing a show, and of course I understood that focus was on Claremont, and they were asking what I was sort of interested in, and I was thinking of this room in particular where I had photographed Steve as a part of the pandemic's portrait series. He lives in Hominy,